welcome to this edition of Wake Up and Live with the Arts. I'm Sue Johnson. I'm not your co-host today, I am your host, along with two wonderful examples of Cleveland's great arts, and this time in the world of dancing arts. And having said that, you probably have a clue that I am talking about Mary Verdi-Fletcher, the founder and director of Dancing Wheels, and we're here along with Catherine Lambert, her rehearsal director, and they are in the process of getting ready for a huge production called Dumbo, along with many other things that they are known for, not only around Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, but the United States, and I believe you've traveled overseas, have you not?
Yes.
Tell us a little about your overseas travel. When was that and what was that about?
Well, we've had several invitations to travel abroad. We've been in Poland and the Republic of Czech, and now we even have an invitation to travel possibly to Russia. So
wow.
The invitations come quite often. Mm-hmm. Our ability to actually go is a fewer times, but yes. We love to take our art form to countries where people with disabilities actually don't have the same advantages as those of us that live in the United States.
Now, speaking of disabilities, Dancing Wheels was founded by you. You're a very special person. You live your life in a wheelchair, and that is due to
my disability is spina bifida. Yes, so it was from birth. Yes.
From birth. And what is it about dancing? Were you always interested in dancing? Were you a dancer? Did you get tired of sitting and watching other dancers?
All of that.
All of the above.
Yes. Actually, my mother was a professional dancer, mm-hmm. and my father was a musician. So my love of the arts came very early. Mm-hmm. I was probably 3 years old when I had verbalized that I wanted to be a dancer. Mm-hmm. And of course, it was at a time and an era where people with disabilities didn't have any advantages or ability to be independent. So,
and often they weren't even acknowledged as equal human beings.
Very often.
Yes, I go back that far in life myself, where
yes.
handicapped individuals were looked upon as second, third, and fourth class citizens and
Absolutely.
not an equal person. Yeah.
And accessibility that we have today didn't exist back then.
At all.
No.
At all.
So that venture to be a dancer seemed very far-fetched to mm-hmm. a lot of people. But I think, the arts are an avocation that chooses you. You don't choose it.
Yes.
So that desire and that love of music and movement stayed with me from the time I was very little until there was a day in the 1980s when mm-hmm. Popular dancing, as far as like disco dancing
yes.
and social dancing, was coming more prevalent.
Yes.
And so I had the advantage of experimenting with some of my friends that didn't have disabilities. And what we found was the combination between the wheelchair and the stand-up dancer was mm-hmm. that there was a lot of fluidity, speed, agility, much like comparing dance and skating together. Mm-hmm. So the feet and the wheels together creates an art form that is unparalleled.
Now, was it a happenstance, an experiment? What caused you that particular day? What was the trigger, the backstory that you somehow came up with an wheelchair dancing, free foot dancing?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that it happened in an instant. Mm-hmm. But what did happen instantaneously is when I entered a dance competition and never told anyone that I was in a wheelchair because it didn't really occur to me. I've always looked at myself as just Mary.
Yes.
And so I signed up with my non-disabled dance partner, and we entered a competition where there was all non-disabled dancers. Sure. And there were 2,000 people in the audience.
Wow.
And the producer was from a television show, national television show. And once we did our performance, the crowd was awestruck. Mm-hmm. And they stood to their feet, and we got a standing ovation that night. And at that moment, I realized that I had to dance.
Okay, wow. Was that in the 80s as well
That was
happened?
actually October 1980.
Okay, and when did you actually end up founding your dancing wheels?
Shortly thereafter, the request to see our performances had gone nationwide. And I think, it wasn't at a time where there was Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and all the social media, but it kind of went viral in its own way. It got covered by local television and then went national. So people were requesting performances all over the nation, almost instantaneously. And the more people saw a performance, the more they wanted to see more and wanted to be a part of it. So then we, by 1990, had formed a partnership with the Cleveland Ballet.
Yes.
And we did 72 shows a year all over the country, pairing what we call now stand-up and sit-down dancers. So it almost immediately turned into a group. We called ourselves Dancing Wheels that night.
Okay.
I remember calling my mother at 2 o'clock in the morning. She was asleep.
Of course.
And I said, Mom, we're runners-up for this dance competition. And she goes, oh, that's nice. And went back to sleep.
Of course, yeah.
But it has never, ever stopped in terms of my love and my interest and my desire to dance. And it's been 32 years, so it's a very long time.
And it's called that expression, you've come a long way, baby, so that now you're affiliated with Dancing Wheels. And I dare say, for lack of any further knowledge, that your colleague here is a pioneer in this arts industry, combining wheelchair with stand-up dancing. And I'm sure most people in the country had not heard much about it, if at all. And look at what she's done. Now there are other troupes across the country, and you are here working on a very huge project called, what is it?
Dumbo.
Dumbo. Now, is that going to be Dumbo the effluent with the big ears? And I did say effluent on purpose. But I remember, what was that? Where'd that come from? The bear. What is the bear and Tigger and Winnie the Pooh? Yes, Heffalumps and Woozles.
Yes.
So this is about the elephant with the huge ears.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about it and how you got involved with this project.
Well, being the rehearsal director for Dancing Wheels now for almost 2 years, around 2 years, it's wonderful that we again are getting to work with David Rousseff. He had created another work called Walking on Clouds.
Yes.
And then he and Mary partnered up again. So she's the brainchild behind these. But she really wanted to address bullying. So this Dumbo, and David could explain it much better.
And with any fortune or good luck or whatever you want to call it, he'll join us a little later in the interview.
Yes. It will be a more updated version taking place in a high school. And so just dealing with bullying and how that's been a topic lately. And with Mary with always charging forward to defend the rights of others. Once again, here we are in this arena. And we're just looking forward to it. It's a wonderful production.
And when will it be opening? Is it a premiere performance?
It's a world
premiere.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And when will that be opening?
That will be at the Green Center in May, the weekend of May
9th through the 11th.
Through the 11th.
Four performances.
And the Green Center is?
It's the St. Ignatius.
Oh, that new state-of-the-art.
State-of-the-art.
I haven't been there. Our videographer, Lester Bryan, I think, has been there, and he tells me it is fantastic over there.
It's an amazing facility and fully accessible.
Okay.
So it makes for great audience attendance.
Sure.
This production is going to have some wonderful surprises in store. I don't want to give it away.
Not too much, just a tease, a soupçon of hint, if you would.
But dancing enhanced with
I have to say it. I'm going to say it. It's a multimedia.
A presentation, performance, yes.
Performance, and so it's not your usual just plain dance concert.
Yes.
So we have huge puppetry
Okay.
and live music and film. So it really will have all aspects.
All the dimensions,
of, yeah,
yes.
the-
And with your music, is it going to be originally written music or using from the Disney production some of theirs? How does that work?
We have a conductor, and he is going to create a score for us based on the original musics that were
Okay.
heard in the Dumbo production. And it transcends between reality and the fantastical.
Fantastic?
Yes.
Fantastical. Oh, sorry. I didn't,
Oh,
yes.
no, that's all right. But, you know, for me, I think that the messages of harassment and bullying and misunderstanding of cultures and peoples are something that children encounter often, and sometimes it's handed down from generation to generation.
But of course, yeah.
So to present it in a way where it is understood by the very young and also the young at heart is something that we really feel is important.
Well, we've come, like I said earlier, a long way from the world of folks who have to be wheelchair bound, folks who are less than 100% health-wise perfect,
Right.
and where people just either didn't acknowledge them or bully them, or it was pretty ugly back in the olden days
Yes.
before the Rights Acts were passed. And so, but if you don't mind, if you do, let me know. But if you don't mind, because you came up in an era pre-accessibility,
Yes.
and I was a teacher pre-accessibility, and what were some of your personal experiences, if you'd like to share, with the difficulties of navigating life, buses, steps, whatever? And tell us a little bit, because you're an inspiration, so whoever sees this will have children, will have relatives who will say, boy, if she did it, why am I not working at it?
You know, interestingly enough, as a child, I started in a school for children with disabilities. And I
Is this
found
in Cleveland,
it
or
was
you
in
from-
Cleveland.
okay.
Yes, in Cleveland. And I found that I felt ostracized in that environment because the children had a lot of behavioral problems,
Okay.
and I was always raised in a certain way. So the children that were in my class kind of teased me because I guess I was prim and proper. I don't
Yes.
know. And I still remember I was in kindergarten, and they would break my crayons and do, like, you know, one little boy
Things
would...
they used to call teasing, which
Yes.
over the years has now escalated into bullying.
Bullying, yeah. Took my coat off and wiped his shoes on my, on my coat, things
Okay.
like that. And so I said to my mother, I don't belong here. I don't fit in here, And so she was quite an angel. She brought me to a parochial school that was not wheelchair accessible because the schools weren't accessible back in those days.
Sure.
So she had to stay every day and pull me up flights of stairs just so that I could attend school just like the other kids. But I remember that this principal in the first school, a school with kids with disabilities, would say, I went to her and I said, I'm going to be leaving the school. And she said, oh, you'll come back. They always come back. And I said, I was teeny tiny, and I said, I am never coming back. I said, if I have to get a tutor or whatever I have to do, I'm never coming back. And I never did. And I think that for me, the lessons of fortitude and desire and making those desires, even though they're different, maybe, from anybody else, your belief in yourself is the most important thing.
Would you repeat that to the camera, please?
Your belief in yourself is the most important thing. And when we go do our outreach programs, I always say to the kids, very often the greatest disability is saying you can't. Because if you start with I can't, you will never succeed.
Exactly.
And so my life's goal has not only been to be an artist and a performer, but to spread that word to schools everywhere so that we really have reached nearly 5 million people since the inception of Dancing Wheels. And to me, spreading that message through our artistry is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Now, did you have any formal dance training, choreography, or are you one of these true artists who it's so organic, it just jumped out of you?
Well, I'm so organic. No, actually, when I initially started, I didn't have any formal training, and then once became affiliated with Cleveland Ballet, studied in the School of Cleveland Ballet,
Yes.
and then from there worked with so many choreographers and resident choreographers along the way that I've learned techniques way beyond, I think, that the average even person without a disability would experience.
Mm-hmm.
And most recently, an associate of mine and dear friend, Mark Tomasic, created a manual and a DVD based on the step-by-step training that is done here in the methods of Dancing Wheels. So our stand-up and sit-down dancers train in modern and ballet and even some jazz, so that when a choreographer comes in, we're able to tackle their technique or method of movement.
And speaking of which, we hear movement in the background, and I'm sure Lester's picking up some of the background. Tell me a little bit about the troupe in terms of about how many sit-down, stand-up performers you have. Are they consistent throughout the programming, or do they rotate in and out? How does that work?
The company dancers are contracted for a year, and most of our dancers have been with us for quite a few years.
Okay.
Currently we have 3 sit-down dancers, and we have 8, except when I'm dancing sometimes. So, the repertoire is very diverse, so they can be put into a ballet piece or a modern piece or a jazz piece.
Okay.
And so they're all trained, as Mary said, in different techniques. And they go on tour about 70 times a year.
70 times? Oh,
yes.
Good heavens.
So
good
they
grief.
have a very hectic tour schedule, and they rehearse Monday through Friday. They have class in the morning, and then we rehearse through the afternoon. And right now, currently, we're rehearsing in conjunction with Dumbo. Mary has offered a wonderful opportunity for the dancers to choreograph.
Oh, wow.
So November 30th at the Trinity Church, we will be premiering their first works.
And Trinity is at the big one on Euclid at 22nd Street.
Yes,
So for
that's
folks who might, is this going to be open to the public?
Yes, it is.
So November, when is that?
30th.
November 30th
Yes.
at Trinity Church. What time?
Well, at 6:45, we have the students from our school performing a work of their own, and the performance officially begins at 7 o'clock. But I encourage everyone to come to see the children because
But of course, they're the future.
Fantastic job, yes.
I could not believe, this is a sidebar, Lester and I were taping at Rainey last week, and we saw little teeny tiny kids working the violins, the violas, and the cellos with such discipline and artistry. Then we went to the dance area where they have an artist in residence, Sunjab, and I can't do his last name, but he had this huge, beautiful picture on last Sunday's art page. And then again, you see the little teeny tiny on up, learning Indian dance and movement and so forth.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so yes, I strongly would encourage, along with you, to come see the youth because they are amazing.
Yes.
Okay, so in order to come to this, they need to be able to call you, email you, website you.
Yes.
Tell us how folks who want to attend, not only November 30th, but Dumbo coming up and any of your other.
Others.
Yeah, your others.
Many performances.
I am so excited to be here. I can't even speak English. So yes, all your contact
They
information.
can contact us through the website, www.dancingwheels.org. They can call the office directly and speak with Donna Axon, and the phone number is
216-432-0306.
Okay, would
And
you
then,
keep that? Yeah.
Sure. 216-432-0306.
Okay.
And then our email, info@dancingwheels.org.
Okay,
will
we'll have
reach
that
us.
up on the, the trailer, whatever you call that thing at the bottom.
Yeah.
Now, we can't do prices, but are there admission fees to attend the dance performance on November 30th? And for ticket information, they can contact you at the same phone numbers.
Exactly,
Okay.
yes. And there are ticket prices, but they're very reasonable.
Nominal and
there's
economical.
rates. Yeah. So
Because the idea is, I'm just guessing, but I think I'm on the right track, is to make the arts accessible economically as well, because that's
Yes.
been a problem with Cleveland being Cleveland, that a lot of folks don't take advantage of the arts because of the pricing, that's
Yeah.
involved. So we at our actor studio, we try to make things economical as well.
Right.
To attract, a broader audience. Okay, now, tell us a little bit, because we're going to take a look at the dancers, and we threw you off guard, you and Catherine, but perhaps you guys would do a little demonstration for us. Now I forgot what my question was. Oh yes, tell us where some of your dreams and visions are for the next 5, 15, 30 years.
Oh
with your
my! I don't know if I think that far. No, actually, using the manual and the DVD as a catalyst for a certification program. Our major, we call it the Hairy Audacious goal, is for the Dancing Wheels Center to be the world center for physically integrated dance.
Oh, wow.
So all aspects of that feeder system is really what we look upon for on a global level. So the travels to other countries, the teaching, using the manual as a guidebook, so that eventually people with disabilities who want to be dancers that go to dance departments anywhere in the nation or the world will have the ability to be accredited and receive degrees. Currently, there are no programs, degree programs for people who use wheelchairs.
So now you're going to be another pioneer for the arts.
Keep pioneering, that's what they say.
So let's see, not only Glee has, there was a show on NBC that was similar, not Fame.
Well, Glee does have a...
Yeah, but then there was another show, I think, that had one wheelchair high school student. I can't call the name of it, but I think Glee is currently an example.
Unfortunately, the young man isn't really in a wheelchair. So
they're still doing that?
Yeah,
I thought he was legitimate.
Well, actually, it's funny because we were asked to go to Hollywood to do a benefit performance, and they were honoring the Glee people there, and he was there. Not in his wheelchair. And he said, oh my gosh, he goes, I would give anything to be able to dance in my wheelchair like you. Because they just kind of have like a stunt person and they just do little bits of dance. So
you just blew my bubble. You
Oh,
just burst my bubble.
Burst your bubble. Well, he's a lovely young man.
I'm sure,
But I would love to see, now the young woman on that program has a developmental disability. Who has a disability. So they have used some characters that
that's good.
have disabilities.
And the other nice thing, such as it works, is that with our business, SAG, AFTRA, and AEA, the unions that we work for, that they now have the American, the actors and so forth with disabilities, so that you let them know that you may be in a wheelchair or you have some other visible or invisible disability or challenge, and you might get inserted into a regular program. So I think that's been helpful to the artists.
That's been greatly helpful. And they're using people with actors with disabilities in commercials now more than they had been in the past. And I think that now we live in an era where people's independence is available to them. So now that they can look beyond just trying to struggle through society and look at themselves and their own artistries and their abilities and talent, and be able to go to a place to study that too.
Exactly. Now, Catherine, tell us a little bit about your backstory, if you will. Are you a trained dancer yourself? How did you get into this industry, and what are some of your dreams and passions?
Well, I was chosen by dance, I would say, at the age of 6.
Okay.
I attended my first dance performance and fell in love instantaneously. Started taking dance lessons, and quickly thereafter, a woman moved to Massachusetts from New York City, and she brought in she wanted to establish a school that was a professional school.
Yes.
That wasn't geared towards one performance at the end, but she brought in dancers from New York on the train from Broadway, from modern dance companies and ballet companies.
Yes.
So we were trained by people actively working in their field. We were encouraged to audition other places, and really it was the first school of its kind to have modern dance. Most schools at that time offered ballet and tap.
I see.
And modern was rare. So from the age of 10, I was fortunate enough to take ballet, modern, jazz, point, and my training I am so grateful for, because they told me it's best to be versatile.
Oh, but of course, all of us have to operate under that one.
If I could describe my career in one word, it would be versatile.
Versatile.
I have worked as a concert performer in New York City for 15 years. I moved to Cleveland roughly 7 years ago to continue dancing for a repertory company. I danced at Williamstown Theater Festival. I performed in a movie called Kate and Leopold.
Oh, yes, yes.
I have worked as a backup dancer for musical groups, done video work, so really
you are versatile.
My career, I've done ballroom, Latin musicals, so yes, my career has taken me.
And how did you happen to connect with Mary Verdi-Fletcher?
I came to Cleveland in 2003 as a guest artist to perform in Martha Graham's Appalachian Spring.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
I met Mary Verdi-Fletcher in the hallway at the Masonic downstairs, and I felt kind of an instant connection with her. She's full of life. And
to say the least.
Her passion for dance. I connect with people that are passionate about their arts. So we rehearsed we actually rehearsed around the hall, and I would see her all the time. And at that time I was coming and going. I had taken class here in her studios. And then when I was working, when I moved here full-time in 2005, I was working down the hall from her, and we just had a good rapport.
Yeah.
We just talked.
As the universe says, when folks are due to connect, it just happens. Yes.
And at the time, I wanted to be, our schedules being what they were, it was very difficult to work with her and work with another company because they tour and dance so often. And I knew at some point in time, something would open up. And I was getting my master's degree from American Dance Festival in Hollins University. And I received a phone call from Mark Tomasic and said, I think Mary's looking for a rehearsal director. Would you be interested? And I said, give me your number.
How soon can I be there?
We're so fortunate to have her. It's just, she does an amazing job.
Okay. Well, before we see the demo with you, see more of the dancers and meet with that gentleman at the door,
Sure.
was that David?
That's
okay.
David.
Tell us a little bit about the state of dance in our world today. For example, Cleveland was well known for several ballet theaters, Jose and some of the others, and they're not here now. And for some reason, ballet in particular, this is a difficult market. And we do have other dance troupes. I never can say David's last name, Shima Takahara. Yes, I would just call him David. And I'm wondering if Sabatino has retired. I haven't seen Berletza. I haven't seen him.
He's, I understand he's teaching in New York.
Is that what he's doing
Yes.
now? Okay. So what's going on with the state of dance right now?
Wow. I think that there are a lot of new up-and-coming companies that are trying their hand at choreographic development.
Oh, we got Verb Ballet
Yeah,
here.
and there's
we got several.
there's
yeah.
the core dancers, the companies, the strong ones that are in Cleveland, and that would be Verb and Groundworks and
Yeah.
Inlet Dance and Dancing Wheels.
Yes.
And then there's some smaller groups, and then there's some independent choreographers that are fabulous. You know, Diane McIntyre is here
Yes.
in Cleveland, and we work with her often, and
Yeah.
she's phenomenal, and she's national. You know.
I think she's international too.
International,
I think,
yes,
yes.
yes,
She's
absolutely.
good people, yeah.
She is. She's as fabulous to work with as an individual as she is as an artist.
Yes.
So we just love working with her. So, and then on the national front too, Catherine has seen a lot of work in New York, and I think that the European focus of dance too is really emerging as far as the United States looking at that and seeing we should maybe be a little bit more challenging in the work that we do and non-traditional. When I was in Poland at a dance festival, their works were amazing. I mean, there were things on stage that you'd never dreamed to see.
It's almost like the Cirque du Soleil, and
Yeah.
you can't believe people's bodies
Are moving like that, or
Yeah.
and their themes and their usage of props and I think are very cutting edge. So I think that we're looking to go more that route and multimedia and things of that nature. My thinking in terms of drawing audiences to dance, and we talk a lot about like what's the difference between people going to a sports activity versus an artistic activity.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is the audience being a part of it, like feeling that they're part of that
Experience.
And so I like that aspect of it too. If you know, there's nothing wrong with somebody cheering for their team, obviously, and finding heroes in that realm. So why not in dance as well?
Yes, because I grew up with Baryshnikov and the black guy, the tap dancer, not Sammy Davis, but the
Gregory Hines.
Now Savion Glover.
Glover.
Yeah, so those were.
He's a young one, yeah.
Yeah, he's younger. He's
Yeah.
he's more. Well, he picked up where the others left off.
Yes,
but there
he
was
did.
a
Yes.
dearth
Yes.
of dance.
Well, he trained under, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the world of dance is alive. And if you were, as head of an organization, the head of a nonprofit, and the way the world is now with funding and financials and trying to keep this going, what advice would you give to someone who perhaps wants to either be a dancer or create their own little troupe in terms of, let's speak to collaboration.
Yes.
We know how important that is.
Yes.
It has come into the mainstream and we almost can't function without it anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think, you know, as Catherine was talking about on the artistic side about being versatile and experience everything and take those experiences and put them in a dance or put them in a company or put them in a collaboration. Those things are important. I had a strong business background in addition to my artistic. So putting that together allows us to look as a whole organization on the fiscal side and to look administratively on how to support the art form. And so those kinds of combinations are very important. Do not put yourself in a niche, I would say, if I were to advise anybody, a young person coming out. I have our dancers work in the office administratively, get those experiences, help on the marketing side. I think that no matter what you do with your art in the future, having other backgrounds and understandings of life will help you.
A woman after my own heart. I am both business and artistic, and sometimes I end up leaning more toward the business side. And then those who are totally artistic are impossible because they don't see any real world.
We just want it to happen.
Yeah. You just want to have none of this real world stuff.
Right.
So as we begin to wrap this segment, what we're going to do is we're going to ask you and Catherine to do a quick demo. We're going to bring in David, and so that we can chat with him for a few minutes.
Sure.
And we can we do one more person on camera so that David can join us right here? Okay, we'll assume that that's doable. Okay, so how about we'll be right back, and we're going to see Mary and Catherine do a little routine for us from the sit-down, stand-up dance world. Don't go away. We're back, and we have another special guest from Dancing Wheels, and this would be David Rusev.
Exactly.
Or something like that. How do you say that?
Rusev.
Rusev, yeah. I get silly sometimes.
That's quite all right.
It's easier to do it that way.
Yes, I've heard worse.
Okay. Now, is that a French name, or what is that name?
It is, both of my parents are from Louisiana. My father's from New Orleans.
Okay, so there's a French or Spanish influence there.
There
perhaps.
is, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in from Sherman Oaks, California, as
Yes.
choreographer for this new fabulous production called Dumbo, coming
Exactly.
up in May.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in this project.
I made a piece in 2005, a different commission for Dancing Wheels, and a company called Cleveland Contemporary,
Sure,
which
yes.
is primarily African American.
Yes, uh-huh.
And we made a joint piece together. Had a really good time, and then Mary contacted me maybe about a year ago to see if I'd be interested in working with the company again, which I definitely was.
And that's because you see such wonderful dancing as Mary and Catherine are demonstrating behind us to show us how sit-down and stand-up movement just mesh and flow together.
Exactly.
Yes, so now as choreographer for this project Dumbo, which opens in May of next year, okay? Tell us a little bit about, did you design original pieces of choreography? Did you combine from, well, let's say some of the Disney work? How did that come about for you?
No, we're reinterpreting. It's kind of a contemporary reinterpretation of the film. So we're working, it's set in a junior high school, and we're taking some of the themes and kind of the emotional strands from the film.
Yes.
The sense of being alone and being bullied and being different,
Yes.
and overcoming adversity based on your difference. Which was kind of what the film was all about. And we're taking that plot and putting it in a more contemporary setting.
Format, yes.
And so the choreography is all new and original for the piece.
Okay, and how many hours a day do you have to rehearse on this project, which seems like months away, which it
Yes.
is, but I know for planning and development
yes,
time, it is like tomorrow.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Well, I have an assistant who flew in with me,
Okay.
and we've been working in Los Angeles. I'm also in faculty at UCLA, so we were developing a lot of the dance movement there. And then before we arrived, and then now we're teaching that movement to the stand-up, sit-down dancers.
I see.
And they take class from 10 to 11, and then we rehearse 11 to 3 every day. And sometimes Leanne and I will stay after at 3 o'clock and work on new material. Sometimes the dancer will stay after as well, but primarily we'll rehearse 11 to 3.
And what was your introduction to sit-down dancing? Was it through Mary Verdi-Fletcher, or had you had some other experience?
No, it was actually through Mary, and the 2005 piece was the first time that I'd worked with sit-down dancers. And so that was kind of an experiment in how we would work together choreographically, and experimenting with working with stand-up and sit-downs in the same piece of choreography. A lot of that first work we did in 2005. So now it feels like we're building on the techniques that we started then.
Back then, yes,
Yes.
an evolutionary process.
Exactly.
And I know we cannot stall your evolutionary process anymore because it's almost it is rehearsal time
It is
for you.
indeed.
And what we've been doing while we've chatted, of course, is seeing Mary and Catherine doing some
Exactly.
routines to show us how fluid and wonderful the two physicalities,
Yes.
mesh and become a cohesive, creative piece.
Yes, exactly.
So I want to thank you for flying into Cleveland.
Oh, absolutely.
See, you're one of the national people we get to interview when
Well,
they are
I'm
in
honored,
town.
yes.
So I'm looking forward to the production.
Oh, thank you very
come the
much.
spring.
Yeah, it should be
And
very
I hope your
exciting.
time in Cleveland is a wonderful experience.
It has
better
been.
be.
I love Cleveland. I think it's a really
Well, move here.
amazing city.
Okay. All right, David Rusev, I want to thank you and Mary Verdi-Fletcher, our executive director and founder, and Catherine Oh dear, Lambert, Catherine Lambert. I was getting twisted because I'm old enough to remember Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, the old jazz team, years and years ago. We want to thank all of them, plus the Dancing Wheels dancing troupe that you saw in the background, for allowing us to come in and sample all the unbelievable works that they are doing in the arts world, and specifically the dance world, combining sit down with stand up. So we are honored to have met with the pioneers, as well as the fellow in charge of making Dumbo jump off the stage. Did I say Jumbo? I hope I did. I hope I said Dumbo.
Dumbo, yeah.
I am so frazzled today. But with that, we're going to let David get busy. We're going to thank them forever and ever. And then I'm going to sign off with the thanks on behalf of Lester Bryant, our videographer, and me. And we always say, until next time, be sure to wake up and live with the arts every day. See you soon. Okay, what you're watching at the moment is a sneak peek at the upcoming production of Dumbo, the story that's based on the Disney Dumbo, which addresses bullying and other issues facing our young people today. And you got a chance to see the sit-down and the stand-up actors, dancers, work together to tell their story.